Welcome, everyone, to episode 97 of Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. We have a really special episode planned for you. If you are a fan of Brad Wright's Stargate universe, pardon the pun, then this will be an episode that answers some questions for you. We have fandom has always wondered what happened to Jessica Steen. You know, some of us were really attached to that version of the character. Some of us, like me, were attached to both, where, you know, we had one flavor of one performance and then another performance came in and just, I can do this one too. And with this episode, Jessica Steen explains her story. So let's get to it. We're at episode 97. Got this week and then next week to go, and then we go on to a summer hiatus with episode 100 being in the middle. Don't unsubscribe from our channel because we've got more content heading your way. But before we get started with this episode, if you like Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it means a great deal if you click the like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm and will definitely help the show grow its audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next several days on gateworld.net and the next several weeks and into the summer on Dial the Gate as we move into phase 2. Let's bring in Jessica Steen. Jessica Steen. Okay, sorry. Jessica Steen, Elizabeth Weir on SG-1's Lost City. Doctor, yes. Excuse me. She knows 5 different languages. She's brokered a dozen UN peace treaties, some Daniel Jackson referenced for the agreements with the Tok'ra in Stargate SG-1. Thank you so much for joining us.
I am flattered to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You know, it just dawned on me, Jessica, I should have sent you a copy of Lost City so that you could have a chance to poke it over.
Okay, so you did send me links, and
did I?
You did. Oh. You're ahead of your own game. Yes, you were on it.
Okay.
And I tried to watch yours, and for whatever reason, I hooked them up to the TV, and they got very fuzzy. But I have a way, and I watched.
Okay, so you obtained it.
I needed a refresher. Yes.
Have you seen the show? Did you watch the show after it aired, or is this the first time?
You know, it was so long ago. I'm sure I must have at some point, but it was very good to watch again.
So, that was about my question. What did you think of it? It was supposed to be a feature film, the bones of the idea, and
well, where I watched it, they ran it together as one, so it was kind of a movie. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go. So let me back up a little bit. How are things going with you and Heartland and any other projects that you want us to be aware of? What, as we're coming out of this dark tunnel, you know, how are things?
Well, I, along with lots of people, have made, significant changes. Yeah. It's been a precipitous kind of, I did a podcast recently for a couple of guys, Jack and Brad, who run Stay at Home Sun. Okay. And they got in touch about, they just got their engineering degrees, but they're living in their parents' basement. And so they're interviewing people. And, looking at the prospects of what next and who are they going to be as adults and careers and things like that. And so for whatever reason, I got connected to them and they wanted to know what I had to think. But it's interesting how we're all having to reinvent ourselves a little bit and look at, creating new chapters for ourselves. So yes, I have been doing that with my life and where I'm living and all that stuff. And but it's nice to be back on Heartland and with the folks that I know well here, and to tuck into this season. And so
season 15, right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. And as you indicated, longest running drama in Canadian history.
That is,
or is it longest running? It's not longest running TV series, is it?
No, I think Beachcombers still taps. But that was a half-hour show, so we're in there.
Yes, yeah. If you're looking at terms of minutes,
I know if you're nitpicking a little bit, but anyway, yeah, I take pride in the show because I really like the people that watch it, and one of the things that I'm proud of is that anyone can watch it.
Yeah,
and a lot of my friends, I turned a lot of my friends from watching late night news and then going to bed with all that on their minds, and I'm saying, why don't you watch a little Heartland where everything is beautiful and turns out well, and every little hair is in place, and you're going to sleep better at night. So many of my friends have become Heartland, it's
chicken soup.
It's what? Chicken soup?
Have you not heard that expression?
No, but yes, I get it. Yeah.
I've always called Stargate chicken soup. I mean, at the end of the day, it's something that families can sit down and enjoy, and it's something that you won't be dwelling on too much, fretting over. It resets you for it's like something you could watch on Sunday night before a long work week. It just really
exactly. And both shows are thought provoking. They deal with topics, and they do address. It's not without its issues and topics, and so I appreciate that too. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
When did you know you wanted to act?
So,
is there a story there that you can share?
Well, I get this question a lot because, it's for a lot of people, I think they, I've seen bumper stickers in Los Angeles, born to act, and I have to say that for me, and I've said this before, but it's true. It's that, that if your parents run a company, chances are you're going to take it over. For the most part, if you grew up a farmer, that's what you know. And so my parents were both in the business, and all their friends were in the business. And so I, at an early age, and because acting isn't always very financially stable, as a kid, as a teenager, I needed to make some pocket money, and it was my contribution to taking the weight off my folks I've been acting since. I don't know. My mom and I did a series together when I was 8. So I never really went, I know what I need to do. I will be an actor, right? It wasn't like that for me because my family's very loud and you can't get a word in edgewise. And my grandparents and great aunts and uncles, every year we would do a Christmas concert, and they dressed up and they had all these classic old, skits that they would do. And so my cousins and I, we had our own show, and we would make up songs and skits. And so
just for the family or for the public?
Yeah. No, for the family.
Okay.
Every time our family got together, Christmas.
Right. This is what you entertained yourselves with. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we had family guest stars, and we had dances, and my cousin and I, anyway, so it's not something that, although my mother and I are the only actors in our family, it's not, we're pretty dramatic. So I just started doing it to make money, and I had already, been doing it as an after school program, and high school theater arts and all that stuff. So there wasn't a moment. It was just sort of keep doing what you know.
What do you wish you had known then that you know now? If there's any one thing.
Oh God.
Don't shy away from a job or, something like
two things come to mind. One is, knowing when to say, am I worth it? Or I am worth it. So knowing when to say yes to something and when to say no to something. And it is often a crapshoot. You don't know for sure, but I think your gut, and to maybe not operate out of fear, right? To have the voices in your head, what if, but to be able to be grounded and have confidence. It's very hard and when I rewatched Stargate, it brought up a lot of things because of the way it went down, and it's a tricky story to tell, but I think, confidence is a thing that it's hard to have early, and those who do have it early, it can be a double-edged sword, and
right.
You want it,
Yeah.
So you can sit in yourself and go, I know who I am, and I know what I need, and I know where I'm going, and I'm not going to wield it like an idiot, but I'm not going to be a sycophant or a tyrant or whatever. And I don't know it's the kind of thing, David, that I don't think you can. It's hard to tell a younger person. You learn by experience, and the Stargate experience for me was a teaching ground for sure.
Yeah.
More in the negotiating and the way get the off-camera stuff than anything.
Of course, I've been having a long-running conversation with a friend of mine. We've been working on a project for a long time that's very sensitive to her. It's she's been accused of all kinds of things, and it goes back to what are you willing to put up with yourself and your own self-worth. And depending on the type of person you are, it's very easy for you to tell a friend you're worth more than this. Stop doing what you're doing. Stop putting up with what you're putting up with.
Mm-hmm.
And then we say that message to ourselves, and it's like, oh no, I'm not worth that. Or the flip side of it, the psychopath side of it is worse. But I mean, it's especially for artists, it's hard to balance that. What am I worth? And you have to always keep checking yourself too, because you can go off either side.
And quite honestly, as you said, being an artist and an actor, I equate it to being in an abusive relationship, because
in many ways
you're always like doing the thing to get where you want to go, and you put yourself out there, and then you wait by the phone,
right?
And then sometimes you're really the thing, and then you're so not the thing,
right.
And then so it has to do with your ego and your self-worth and being yourself. But at the same time, is that enough? Are you worth it? Will they like it? Will they buy it? Pay your rent? It's like dating. It's like it's different. If most people, if they were asked, do you want to, go on job interviews 3 or 4 times a week and put your intimate self out there for people to judge and choose, not many people would do that. And then to also live the life of never knowing when you're going to work or when the next check is coming. And that's a whole lifestyle that a lot of people wouldn't choose as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's an industry where there are periods, look at right now, of fallow, and you have to think ahead. You have to plan ahead. And I would imagine it's a part of it is, okay, I know I want to know what I'm worth, but also, I want to make sure that, I'm not cheating anyone else out of the group in terms of what it is that they're worth as well. There's only so much money that can go around for a specific project. I would think that. And it's at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm getting paid for what I'm worth, but also these dingbats over here, what do they really know about the people who are financing this project, about who's watching, about who is getting the most attention when people are talking about it. This whole thing that went back about William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy for years on Star Trek. It was a huge issue about which of them was prominent, and it can really damage a series.
It reminds me that when I moved to LA to do a show called Homefront, and we were shooting on the Warner Brothers lot, and Friends started right then. And our show had a lot of young people. We were a crew of youngsters, and we were having such a good time. And they were a couple of studios over. And we all, heard at one point, they've walked out. They're not coming back unless they get $1 million an episode. Oh my God. And we were like, oh, should we do that? We so didn't. But when it came to Friends,
yeah. It's a cultural phenomenon.
Holy Nelly. Yes, they should have, because it was an unprecedented money-making,
it was
magical moment. But when you say, caring about how everybody else is being paid for as an actor, that's producer's job. And you have
lines.
But you can stand for your own worth.
Okay.
And it's in a vacuum. You have no idea.
Okay. So what a mess. Jeez. It's,
that's a topic.
it's like one of the comments that that I was reading and I got submitted, and I was kind of frankly perplexed, and I didn't add it to the bunch. Was this gentleman said, and I'll pull his name up here somewhere, and it has to go back to the things that you have to do to get where you are in the position and to get on screen. And I'll pull up his name, but he said, I read somewhere that you don't like auditioning. And I remember thinking to myself, I can't think of any actor who likes auditioning.
That's, you know what? That's not true, because
Really?
And they tend to be male actors.
Okay.
I have I'll say this: I enjoy auditioning much more now that you're doing self tapes and you're able to do it in the comfort of your own home. Some of the things that I really get tense about would be, I don't know. It's the especially in LA, you would get all dressed up.
Right.
And you drive across town to the Sony lot
which in itself is a whole career dealing with that traffic.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
And if you had back in the day, young and whatever, you might have 3 in a day.
Yeah.
And you're literally changing clothes at lights in your car. You're looking at your Thomas guide, trying to figure out where you're going. You're putting your makeup on. It's like that in itself was a Wonder Woman show. I thought that was pretty funny, but and then walking from you're going through the gates, and it's all very daunting, and Emerald City, and you park your car and you walk in your high heels all the way wherever you're going, and you walk past all the women who look exactly like you, wearing exactly what you're wearing,
and who are auditioning for your part.
And you're all sitting in the same room waiting together. Right. We're all yawning and shifting and biting our nails and kind of running our lines and looking like crazy people. And then you go into a full room of people and they start talking, introducing them war. It was like a Peanuts teacher, right? It was like, I didn't get it. I don't know what's happening. You're like, so self tapes at home dressed from the jammies down, you can put.
Well, I don't know anything about that.
Don't stand up, David. I don't want to see what. But you put up a sheet and and it's so much nicer. That's right? True. Less intimidating and
less gas.
Anyway, but
gasoline.
It's that too. Yeah. But it's one of those crucial parts of being an actor.
Yeah.
And I think, and I've heard a lot of male actors say, "Oh, I love it. It's like going on the battlefield. I'm like, I'm going to bite the head off this thing." And all those guys in there and and I'm like,
the type A's.
She's better for it than me, Yeah.
Yeah, but and it's interesting because that's not going to service your performance any better.
No.
Worrying about these other things, you have to convince them with your character, not convince them being exhausted from the road and everything else. So that's
right.
That's one of those side effects of COVID. That's really going to push things because we have the infrastructure for it. We've got the technology. We just got to do it more.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get directed and you don't get feedback.
Yeah.
So it's in a vacuum, and you kind of are like, I don't know what. But other than that, for me, it's a much better format.
Jessica, tell us about a role that stretched you in ways that you didn't think were possible, or was more challenging when you really dug into it than appeared on the surface.
I'm going to cop to something about this because just like I said earlier, I got into the business to put money in my pocket to pay for clothes, and then my mom and my stepfather moved away as soon as I finished high school. So I then was out of the pan into the fire as a working person, and we didn't again the money flow of an actor. I didn't have money to go to university, so didn't go. Just jumped into the workforce, and one of the drawbacks of that, for anybody that's thinking of doing this for a living, to go to school and really stretch yourself, right? To have that place to try things that are out of your comfort zone,
explore.
and be schooled on how to get to be characters that are so far from your wheelhouse. I didn't do that. I literally had to make money, had to pay rent, had to do what was comfortable and I knew and felt was me, sort of. And so the drawback to that is, if I were to look over my filmography or whatever, I honestly, but for a couple of things, a lot of it's been in my wheelhouse, like things that aren't too far from me. I'm one of those actors. I'm not I didn't even recognize them in that person. I'm not that person. I'm sort of like, you know, I just.
Helena Bonham Carter was in that role. That was her. You know.
Yeah. Right. No. Well. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people that are actors that don't need to be anybody else because they do themselves so incredibly well, and everybody just wants to watch them because they're fascinating, weird, interesting characters. And then there's other people that can transform into a million different things, and that's amazing. And then I'm in the sort of, if this was me in this circumstance kind of actor. And so to answer your question, I don't think I've had that opportunity to the degree where I'm finished or satisfied or could give you an answer. I want to find that still.
Okay.
And as I get older, I'm getting the opportunity to audition for things that are outside my wheelhouse and sort of, quirky, different, there's older witchy ladies and all these, so I'm literally going, wow, I need to up my chops and try to get these parts that are more caricature and fun. And I want to do that stuff.
So let me ask you the next question and then come back around to this. And I think that this will help because you have been given an opportunity to come in and out of a show that has lasted a decade and a half. I can only imagine the number of actors who have really had an opportunity to grow as a series grows and to grow with an era and with the times and with an ongoing as you said, topical discussion that has evolved over time as well. What has it been like growing Lisa Stillman in Heartland for 14, 15 years?
Well, hilariously, when you go for a wardrobe fitting, you realize how you have grown in 14 years because nothing fits anymore. Hello, menopause. So a lot of muffin topping and Spanx and stuff. So that kind of growing isn't as fun to watch happen. I think one of the, not to sort of cut close on this, but it's just this, what is great about Heartland is, where we all are and the consistency of who we are and the place. And you kind of know how people are going to react and who they are. And you watch them go through certain circumstances, but they are who they are. And I think that's comforting for people. So in terms of like the arc of Lisa, her circumstances have changed, right? We've gone from not being together and, navigating our relationship and moving in and becoming part of the family. And she didn't have children. Right. And so becoming part, an aunt, a great grandmother, that kind of thing. It's like, that's circumstantial changes. But in terms of, and, I think she's I often use my mom and her first cousins. So my cousins and my aunt, and, I have a lot of really wonderful Ontario, waspy women in my life that I adore. And what's fun for me is to think of how it kind of makes me feel closer to them, because when things come up, I'm like, what would mom do? What would Lynn do? What would Carol do? And I really think about the ways in which they would react to certain circumstances.
So do you put a dash of them in?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
It's like, Mom, for sure. Watch next week's episode. You may see something familiar.
So this is a funny thing. So my one of my best friends from high school's mom, and I spent so much time at their house growing up, sitting around their dining room table. And she used to walk in the house. Janet would walk in the house, and she would, just to see who was home, she'd go, "Yoo-hoo!" Right? And she'd yell through the whole house. And on the third floor, we would like, "Yoo-hoo!" So I put that into every time I walk in the Heartland house. And I used to do it more often, obviously, and now I live there. But I would walk in, announce that I was coming. I was like, "Yahoo!" And so, adding little pieces like that to the Ontario women that I grew up with, I've enjoyed doing that. Yeah.
And you're looking at the body of work that you've achieved through this time period and getting to really refine a character. has it, going back to the earlier point, helped you to say to yourself, you know what? I'm ready to start pushing those buttons on getting more uncomfortable with going out for parts that are more outside of myself and the women that I know. Has that helped?
Yeah. I mean, last year, I was on a show and had to play a racist lady. Mm-hmm. And there have been parts in the past where I would read it and I'm like, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
I was on Earth 2, and when my character started to be a traitor, I got a lot of feedback, and I was introduced at that time to, holy moly, I would get letters, and when on Homefront 2, I would get letters where people would say, God can save you. You're going astray. How dare you be? And
they're thinking she's real.
You're right. They're talking to me. They're putting my name on the letter, but they're talking to me as if I am the person. It's a bit, and I realized early how influential the things that you choose to do are, right? The only control I have in my contribution to the fabric of culture and society is to choose the jobs that I will or won't do. And, oftentimes you're like, I need the money. Am I going to go out for this thing? But honestly, if you go out for a series, if you go up for a series and it's a regular, you got to be prepared that it will. I would never have guessed that doing a guest spot on Heartland would have me there 15 years. Like most things you do, any guest spot you do doesn't do this off. Like, when does that ever happen? You do a guest spot and on you go to the next thing, right?
Know.
One episode. You never know. But if you're auditioning not for a guest spot, but for a regular, you got to really go, do I want to live in this town potentially for many years? Yeah. Work on this kind of material, and does it shoot mostly at night and dark? Like there's some heavy material out there that I don't think I day in, day out would want to live.
Because you're in that person's head too, to a certain extent, depending on what.
And you're living the stuff, right? Yeah. So if you're doing, procedural torture porny type TV, you're embodying and acting and looking and doing and that's heavy,
right?
And that's not. And so it's not only a choice of like, how do you want to spend your time in your life, and it's also how do you want to contribute or not. And so turning down certain jobs, even though they might have been lucrative, they didn't say what I wanted to say, is it does make choices about your career and that kind of thing. I can't remember the question.
No, you answered it. You hit it on the head.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit here, and we'll come back around if you've got a little bit of time. Jean Diotta Smith, how familiar? Jean Diotta asked, how familiar were you with SG-1 before being cast as Dr. Weir?
Not at all. Sorry.
Okay.
Not at all.
Are you a sci-fi fan?
Well, I'm a softcore sci-fi fan.
Edward Coyle wanted to know that one, so okay.
Yeah, I learned another thing. So yes, I learned a fair bit about sci-fi fans on Captain Power.
Yeah.
But I learned a heck of a lot more about sci-fi fans because the internet was just starting on Earth 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So Clancy Brown would come to work and he was on the internet. I didn't have a computer for another, I don't even know how many. I was late to the game. He would come to work with these printouts of all the things that were being said. And we're like, what? I can't believe like the detail with which these people watch this. I didn't even think about that. Like I just remember reading one where, they were walking through the river and then just a short time cut later, their pants are dry. I'm like, oh my God.
They're watching.
These people, they're watching and they're like tracking all the information and doing stuff that anyway, so that was a real wake up call. And when you ask me if I'm a sci-fi fan, I'm a noticey kind of person. I'm like a continuity kind of person, or I can read a script and go, wait, that doesn't track. That wasn't,
Right.
but no,
The ins and outs of it, like, yeah.
I'm a right brain. I'm not a left brain, for sure.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, like, what's the genre of, like, supernatural, Charmed, Black Mirror, Outer Limits, Alfred Hitchcock Presents? What
it's
is
all
that?
sci-fi fantasy.
It's sci-fi fantasy. So that I like. I like that a little more, for sure.
Right.
And listen, I also like, I did get a hit last night watching it again, of how, tickling that part of your brain where, I'm not a religious person. So I just like the idea of having faith that I wish there were a little, that the aliens generally would be a little nicer overall. We always deal with such nasty aliens. Why is every, other than Starman or E.T., it's like, why is every alien got to be so mean? Anyway.
If you go through SG-1, the little green men actually turn out to be good guys.
Yeah.
So it's a trip. So you hadn't followed SG-1 before.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Is that Dr. Weir was green also. So in a way, so I went in there thinking I don't need to know anything. I'm going to learn everything with the fans on the show, right? As the audience learns, I learn, and I'll be reading those boxes full of files and stuff like that.
That's
but
right.
But I think I actually drove the writers, producers bananas to a not good degree, because then I would come in with all these questions that I think, I would think she would have, but I'm a stickler for detail, and maybe I should have done a bunch more homework, or they didn't have the answers to certain things because they didn't exactly. I don't know. I know I drove them crazy.
Oh, so you came to them for a lot more than like.
Yeah, and I don't know if they just would, if they should have turned to me and said, "Would you go watch the show and get off our backs?" Or whether my questions were dumb, or if my questions were, they didn't have the answers, so they didn't want to be pushed on them, or I was thinking, like, is this an inconsistency, or is this something anyways, I drove them crazy. I know it.
Well, I mean, we've all been there, one shape or form. One of the things that I wanted to ask was any episode given to you like as homework to kind of get a feel for it? But it sounds like you were just thrown into the deep end of the pool, and kind of basically she's either going to do her own research on it or not.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what year was it?
That was 2000 and 2003. Yeah.
Okay. So just to put into perspective, I don't think I even got a computer. You know what I mean? And did they give me VHSs or CD, like right. DVDs or whatever? Like, I don't know. A lot of this stuff happens quickly.
Yeah.
From casting to, I'm not using it as an excuse. There's no excuse. I could have. I'm sure. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. You had your approach. What do you recall? And you went and rewatched it. What the intensity of that job felt like as being, it's a season finale, potentially a series finale. We're potentially going into another show. Do you recall the intensity of this particular project and the commitment to really, of everyone on board, to really getting this one right? Being in charge of the SGC, Goran Antonowski asks, you're in charge of this whole thing. You're coming in here. You're absolutely green.
Yeah, but that's the thing, rewatching it, it's like she's not in charge. There's like at no point does she actually, she has a couple of flare-up moments where she goes, this is my chair, and
right.
But I don't think she ever felt like she was in charge. And if she felt in charge, and I have to say, it's so funny to watch yourself at that age and think, that doesn't even sound like me. Like, that's not my voice. And what? And, would someone of that age have actually accomplished that much and be taken seriously as a woman? I love that they went there. I love that they took a chance and put that person. But, and here's the other thing I like about that show, like I do about NCIS when it comes to procedural stuff. they have a nice balance of humor and personal interactivity, and combined with serious issues and weighty content, right? So I do, and it is a tricky line to navigate, right? Where you want to keep both things well served and not diminish the, I don't know, the intensity or the. So I think Bill Devane does that so well.
He is the president.
Yeah, but he's the kind of president you would love to have, because he's weighty. Yeah. You don't want to mess with him. Yeah. But he's always got a smile, and he's a good old boy, and he's never, he'll with a smile, he's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So I sorry.
You're okay.
So I love watching him. I love watching him because he does that really well.
Jessica, I don't think you give yourself enough credit for that role. Look at the context here. She starts on a Monday. They get, as the guy who keeps track of all the data, they get attacked on a Thursday, the same week. She is still getting her feet wet, and she knows what she's doing. She knows people's names. She knows what needs to be done when she's there. Yeah. This was the first few days of this assignment. And when you think about it in that context, Ronnie friggin' Cox coming in, you got the vice president leaning over your shoulder saying, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and you're going to like it. Yeah. I think that she did just fine. And I think that you had given her a few more months, like in the story, everything was clicking along right. Yeah. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, thank you. And it's like, it's the magnitude of a job like that.
Yeah.
You can't even, right?
Well, I mean, she asks her, I am not qualified to deal with aliens. And the president's like, someone has to, you know, we have to have an equivalent to this. So
as I'm watching, it's like, there is a little bit of scattered and casual, and I watch Don Davis, who holds such, he holds that weight so well, he just did such a great job of bringing that side of it, right. To the role. And it counters with Harry, who plays, he's kind of the Michael, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway,
Richard Dean and Michael Shanks, the kind of chaotic,
Yeah.
Hammond was the father figure. You were coming in to a show that had this father figure in the form of Don Davis for 7 seasons, and you're appointed by a new administration, and it's like was this place? I'm in charge of this place, so I guess I'll read some files and figure it out, as I go. I was told last Friday.
Right, and here's the other thing, all my stuff was, well, aside from the White House and the getting in the limo or whatever,
right,
it was all in that one
base
set right, and it's all imagination of where so
do you recall
and it
go ahead
No, you go ahead.
Do you recall what was the audition process for it any different than some of the others?
Not at all.
So you weren't made aware that this was potentially going into a new TV series?
Oh yes, that for sure.
That's what I'm interested in. So so the information comes out about it, the breakdown, and it's like, this is a springboard into Atlantis.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what was that like, going in there thinking, okay, if this pans out the way that it's supposed to, this could be another 7 years. Was that daunting? Was that like, well, at some point I'm going to have to watch this whole thing or not, depending on your personal approach?
Sure. And here's where we kind of can't avoid like what happened.
Okay.
Right. So as I said earlier, like I do take things quite seriously, right? If I'm going to commit to something, I do take that very seriously. And yes, I've heard that, oh, she didn't want to live in Vancouver. Well, that's so not true. I mean, I have family in Vancouver and I've, no, I'm Canadian and I'm happy. Anyway, was that part? No, absolutely not. Because do I want to live in Vancouver? Sure, absolutely. Do I want to work on this show? If I didn't, as I said before, when you look at the breakdown, when you look at the material, when you look at the situation, you go, could I do that for a long extended period of time or not? Right. Yeah. And so I would not have auditioned for it or done it if I had not been prepared to do it. And if I was going to do it, I was going to do it extremely in a committed way. And part of that was when I drove the producer writers crazy with details, a lot of that was like, where are we going with this? And should I do this or should I do this? And can you tell me what's the outcome of these various things? And should I foster a kind of this or anyway?
So you can be mentally and actingly prepared.
Or just project where the growth of this character or the knowing of so I was asking a lot of like future questions. And so anyway, okay. Yes. So when I signed on to do anything in this show, for sure, I was prepared, especially looking at how long this one ran and the potential of the second one to do the same, right? Gotta commit to that. So then,
yeah. And then,
so then they held me, they hold you from doing anything else by paying you a certain amount of money to keep you from getting on anything else. And then in the fall, they let me go. And
no phone call? Just your agent was notified?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm green about that. Is that how it's done? So.
Well, I think it was unceremonious, and here is why. So when this came around, and I think it would have been happening in late July, and we would be shooting in August. And you said it was 2003. Mm-hmm. So at that point, 98, 99, 2001, 2003. So at that point now I don't have children and I don't, I don't have other careers, but for 20 years straight, I went to Burning Man, changed my life, if you know what that is. And
very familiar. I haven't been, but yeah.
The first year I went, and for every year afterwards, I, not single-handedly, produced a camp. Like we, if you know anything about it, there are theme camps, and you apply for space, and there's rows of streets, and the front street is the main, it was on the main drag, so that it's all facing everything, and you're sort of responsible. You have to really show up with the goods. Now, I went, for the first time in 98, and there were 14,000 people, and now it's up in the 80s and stuff like that. Huge. But it changed my life. The first time I went, it changed my life. By the second year, my boyfriend and I at the time spent so much money, so much time creating a scene, an interactive scene with a bunch of our friends. And we just created this amazing, and it was so gratifying. It was like producing a play, an amusement park, kind of engaging. I mean, we had everything. It was set decking, it was music, we were painting and building and coordinating, and we had, it was so much. And we all had characters we were playing, and and producing, and you have to bring everything, right? From water to food to fuel to generators to
because it all goes out at the end.
Right.
You guys leave it better than you found it.
Biggest leave no trace event on the planet. And
Correct.
So for me, it was my family. I missed weddings, showers, bar mitzvahs, everything. I know my family knows how important it is to me. It is my family. It's Mecca. It was going back every year. And here's where, if I commit to something, I'm going to do my best to be my word and do my thing. So I had committed. This was a year-long. I did a documentary on the theme camp leads, and it's a full-time unpaid job. It runs year-round, and you're coordinating hundreds of people, everything from far right brains to far left brains, and infrastructure and trucks and insurance and and we were bringing out huge structures like huge scaffolding and stages and lighting and music. And so I loved it. And at that point, it in no way was known, and there was no cell service, and there was no selfies, and so it was a much quieter thing. But what it did have is a terrible stigma of, oh yeah, it's just naked, drugged out people, pissing around in the desert, right? And so my agent advised me to tell them to say that I needed the days off. I had to be done by this date, which I did because I was a camp lead. And I was driving a 5-ton truck out that was full of all the stuff. So he said, tell them it's a family reunion. I said, oh, it is. And that you can't miss it. I'm like, and I can't. And we'll have an end date that they have to have you out by. And I was like, okay. So it's a true story for me, right? As I said, it's as important to me as my real family is. And so it is a family. Yes. So go to set. Fall in love with everybody. Martin Wood and I are like, but just like everybody was awesome.
He's amazing.
The crew, the cast, everybody's awesome. So fun. And I can't keep my mouth shut, I guess. It is a family reunion. I am going. People are interested. I'm talking about it. I'm also having costumes made. I'm a stilt walker. So I was having these huge stilt costumes made. And,
this is a big thing. You're excited.
I'm excited. And I'm having foggers and bubble makers delivered to my, to my it was bananas. So
yeah,
so
and this is all that's going on when you're filming Lost City. You're getting prepped for this.
Yeah,
got it.
I'm literally coordinating like a producer, heading out into the Sahara Desert, to and getting all the tickets and all the early entries and all all that stuff, whatever, doing all that, and it's not. Sure. Yes. Is there naked? Yes. Yes. Are there? Sure. Yes. But for
it's
me,
everything.
It's something much more. Right? Yeah. So they all then come to know that I'm going to Burning Man. Okay. And they arranged the schedule to get me out by the date that we agreed upon in my contract and whatever. So, in fact, I shot all day one day. I had a day off, and I shot again another day. So it was like Wednesday and Friday. So I fly the last flight out from Vancouver to Los Angeles. I pack the truck all the next day. I have to pick up the truck. I pack the whole truck, 5-ton, with friends, and we fill the whole thing. And I fly back that night. And I go to work on Friday. And then I boot it to the airport again and fly back to Los Angeles. And I drive, because we have to go in and build this whole thing before it opens. So I drive out to the desert, and we do our whole thing. So I don't know how long later it was that I talked to John Smith, producer on the show. Mm-hmm. And I guess I called him, at some point, and I just said, hey, I guess I just want to know what happened.
And this is after everything's been.
Yeah, this is. I think it might have actually been a year later. I don't know.
Okay.
So he said, why don't you come in and see me? I was like,
good guy.
I feel like I'm going to the principal's office, right? What's this? So I go in there. Lovely man. He was such a lovely man. And he said, I said, can I guess? He goes, yeah. Yes. And I said, oh, well, I know I drove them crazy asking too many questions and I drove them crazy. He goes, yeah. And I said, and it was the Burning Man thing. He goes, yeah. He said they felt that if you were more committed to naked drugging in the desert, that you would be committed to doing the show the way they needed you to. And I was like, the irony about that, John, is that for me, it's a true story. I was going to a family reunion. I was not lying. It was more important to me than several family meetings, as I said. And my commitment to it is the commitment that I would show to the show. Yeah. And unfortunately, no one ever had the conversation with me. Yeah. I was unceremoniously let go without explanation. And he said, I think there are regrets about that, the way that went down. And I said, okay, well, and I don't know. And here again, I don't know how I would have done it differently. I think at that time, my agent was right to say, I don't think they're going to understand that you're that committed to getting naked and doing drugs in the desert. they won't understand what you're doing. And we have to we have to lie, I guess, or say it's something else or whatever. So
Burning Man.
That's how it happened.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was until Malcolm in the Middle. They had that episode on it, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's interesting. It's a parody of it.
Yeah.
And then it's one of those, you really do your own research, and it's like
there's so many parodies. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
But
and then it was okay, that's what this is, and it's one of those where it's like, it's kind of like cryptocurrency. Oh, well, you must be doing drugs. No, it's an investment. There's so much more to it than everything that went down with Ross Ulbricht and Dread Pirate Roberts. And Burning Man has that kind of stigma, and I look at the work that Tori did on Atlantis, and I love Tori. I love Tori as a person. And I can't help but wonder, Jessica, what your performance would have done to that show, what they would have taken from you and done with it. And is it something that you were like, you know what, at the end of the day, this is the question that I've really wanted to ask. At the end of the day, it was probably for the best that I didn't get it because these other things came up? Or is it like still one of those scabs where I really would have enjoyed that?
I think I was hurt, or I was like misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely the kind of person that I'll apologize if I completely did something bad or wrong.
Yeah.
But if I can explain to you why I did what I did and help you understand from my point of view how it was honorable or my intentions were good, then great. And I didn't get a chance to do that. And that's the biggest sticking point for me. I'm the kind of person that will audition for something and I put the sides and the breakdown directly into the recycling bin. I cannot, just like I can't invest in any audition, I cannot invest in anything that isn't mine, right? That the way it happened is the biggest sticking point for me. What could have been for me on that show, or what I cannot play in that landscape.
Okay.
Because
why torture yourself?
What good does it? What good does it do? And then yes, of course, am I a person that like everything happens for a reason? Sometimes, because great things can happen. Other times, but things unfolded the way they did, and I can't have regrets about it. And again, I don't know how I would handle it differently if something. I don't know. It's a tricky one.
That's fair. You had some dynamite scenes with Devane, with Ronnie Cox, Michael Shanks, Richard Dean at that conference table. Do you have any memories of working with them?
I remember thinking that Michael Shanks and Michael Weatherly they could play brothers. You know what I mean? They had a very similar ease and humor and the way they dealt with the material. And I just liked that working like that with them. It is always intimidating to come into an established cast, crew, show situation as a guest star and make yourself at home and feel, and especially if you're holding a position of power or whatever. And to telling the leads what's going on or what they have to do.
I will consider it.
Yes,
like,
right.
To reach to MacGyver.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So and honestly, when I watched it last night, I was like, that is almost happening to someone else. I have no idea who that is right now.
Wow.
It feels like
you're really divorced from it. Just is it
not
time?
Divorced.
Is it time or is it
time? It's like if someone showed you, footage of you in the school ground fighting or talking or playing or doing something.
Who is that person?
Like, who is that person? I said those things. I looked that way. It's like it's somebody else, honestly. Of course, there are pinpricks of memories about all shows and all situations in your life. But when you have to look at them again, you're like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's for this fandom, it is an impactful performance. And I want you to know just how the response over the years from Lost City to Atlantis afterwards has really divided people's allegiances, because you've got the group who is, I love the actor, I'm committed to the actor, it's the actor, it's the actor, it's the actor. And then others who are like, I can step back and look at this and say, what if this person had actually continued this? And there are so many people who are like, and I'm getting that back out there again. I loved Tori. I am one of those who is like, what about the possibilities? Because I'm not in it as in the perspective, we the fans are not in it in the perspective that you were, where it was work, and it was going to be your 9 to 5. And there's so many of us who are like, what? It would have been incredible to see her do that, And then you got the other people who are like, nope, she's not Tori, because that's what they saw and that's who they loved,
Sure, and that's not easy to come in and that I don't envy anybody that has to step into a role that's been somebody else, and it's hard for that person, and it's hard for anybody watching. And I remember doing, I thought it was hilarious. I remember doing a soap in New York called Loving, and the woman who was playing this part got too big to, she was pregnant and her shoes wouldn't go on and stuff like that. And so, and they just went, playing the part of Trisha will be Jessica. I'm like, and they said, can we see how long your hair is? And I'm like, as if the length of my hair is going to fool the public. That it's not the same. So it's weird for anybody to see someone else play the part of somebody that's been, wait a minute, who are you trying to, but anyway, and do I, as a creative person with like an imagination of what if, or what if Atlantis in Antarctica, I'm like, cool. I would love to have done that, played in that imagination landscape, and what if this, and provide to be an ambassador for that. Geez, that would have been really fun. And I I think the weight or her gravitas or her empathy or her the growth for that character, oh my gosh, epic. Right?
Absolutely.
I did not watch any of Tori's stuff, and I don't know her. So, once it was done, I was like, well, okay, put that on the shelf. Right.
It's a gig.
I didn't go and say, well, what I didn't do that. But would I have liked, obviously, because if that was happening here, I'd be fascinated. I'd be so excited. It's like creating a whole,
absolutely.
Man,
it's a whole thing.
Just like,
it would have been creating another Lisa, except every episode.
I think, honestly, that's that part in that way, way more layered, way juicier, way more intense, way more incoming material, way more variations of, like there's just so much to, and that's one of the things of playing a part like that. It's like, can you possibly even imagine what it's like to be dealing with that? I can't even imagine what it's like to be a politician, let alone someone who's dealing with,
it's a bureaucratic role so much.
Yeah.
And that's who Weir was at the end of the day, and I can tell you, just to take a couple of minutes, once she got to Atlantis, there were, just to give you a peek into what she dealt with, the character dealt with. She was, because of circumstances, being forced to step aside and let the military come in and take over at least twice. And in the second time, it was a situation that Weir said, this is crazy. We can't do this. If you go forward with this, I'm going to resign. And the situation ended up killing her. And her physical form ultimately. And it's just one of those where it was a great arc for a character. She went, all over the place. And, all of us fans, who rewatch the material again and again, sit back and go, what if? So, it was cool. Christina, and I really appreciate you being so open about it and filling us in.
We will never know.
Yeah, Absolutely.
I mean, that's like, I would like, yes, I would not have signed on if I hadn't wanted to take that journey, for sure.
Christina Jacobs, she says, I've watched 2/3 of Jessica's lifetime filmography and have enjoyed all the different genres and roles that she's played. Like most fans of Jessica, I'm always wanting more. So my question is, if you could make a full-length feature film based on just one of the characters you've portrayed over the years, who would you pick?
I think I actually think I'm going to circle back to the same thing I said before, which is I am still
waiting for that one.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I have ideas, realms and characters that I would like to play in, but honestly, been there, done that. I want to try somebody different, new. If I was going to do a movie, sure. I've got places I want to expand into.
Absolutely.
Not revisit, I suppose. And,
the one that I would go for with that would have been, let me pull up the character. I want to get her name right. Let me see here. David, shame on you for not having this ready to go. That's my fault.
No, but you're quick on your fingers. What's
Jennifer Watts? I would have loved to have had that backstory from Armageddon. I grew up a Michael Bay kid, and I love your response. If I decide to kick you in the balls and you don't know how to work your thrusters, what happens to you? It's one of the greatest lines in action cinema. I would have loved to have seen the character.
One of the most beautiful guys ever.
Oh, he was such a sweetheart. Oh man, absolutely. The world lost some great talent.
Oh my God. And just to say, like, his voice literally vibrated your body because it was so deep, and he was so cute and so funny. And he you could scare him, and he hated being scared. Like if you jumped out from behind a door, a guy that size who literally his arms were the size of my torso.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Oh my God, a big man. Like you're like, and he and I, this is kind of funny. He and I were back in the circus, in the trailer zone, and I don't know, I challenged him to a race. I was like, you cannot outrun me. I don't know, you know what you weigh. Yeah, you're all muscle, but I bet I can beat you in a race. Yeah. He goes, whatever. So we started to run, and he goes, oh, and I'm like, oh, come on, you can't be serious. You're going to pull one of those. He goes, I think I pulled a hamstring. I'm like, get out of here. But I think you did.
Oh, gosh.
But seriously, he left a message on my phone that I kept on there forever at one point, because it was deeper than Barry White. It was and I played for my friends. Can you believe? I wanted him to make me an outgoing message. Yeah.
Jeez.
I couldn't. Nothing would happen if I kicked him.
Right.
He would be like,
well, it's 0G. It's on the asteroid. That's funny. 00, the real ITC, and ME. Man, I wish I saw this show.
What are you talking about?
Captain Power. What was Captain Power like?
What did you call? Wait, what did you call it?
00, the real ITC. That's his YouTube username. And ME.
Sorry.
Sorry, my apologies.
Sorry.
They were both asking about Captain Power. He says here, if you haven't seen the series, the finale will rip your heart out and crush it into pieces. And he wants to know, Jessica, what did the death of the character? What did you think of the death of the character? Especially since this is a kids show. Really had its time in more than one way.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it was the first interactive television, which I didn't think that really, in terms of, I saw teaching opportunities for that kind of thing. Like if you were, Sesame Street interactive, that would have been fun. Or, there were ways to use, I don't think I ever saw the same kind of thing. It was the first, it was funded by Mattel Toys, right?
Right.
And so when Christmas came around, and I guess that didn't sell as well, then we were done.
Yeah.
But this was a situation where I didn't want to do the show. Okay. I did not want to do the show. This post-apocalyptic world, and it felt super dark and heavy for kids. Yeah. And like I said earlier, if I'm going to sign on to do something, I want to get behind it. I want to be able to put I couldn't. I didn't want to play in that world. I don't know. It felt very bleak and yucky.
Okay. Well,
Didn't
I won't
want
ask you to say
and,
power on then.
oh, I know, but so here's the thing. After it kept coming back, and I was like, and I felt very pressured to do it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, but I only want to do the first season. That was how I signed on to do it. Was I only want to do the first season. And I don't know if I said kill me at the end of the first season, or they said, okay, we'll get rid of you by the end of the first season. I'm like, okay, great. So I was my own demise. I was my first blowing up, and that's
right.
So, but then getting on the show, it was, oh my gosh, it was such a unprecedented kind of CGI, the whole thing, and it was back so early that the way that it was being done is so cute now, right? So when we would stand in front of our pods and put our hands over like old 70s lamps, these upward facing, those ones that hang down. Anyway, so they had the up facing one. We put our hand, and then on the screen, there was a little TV monitor and they would take a Sharpie and outline us on the screen, and then we would run off to our changing rooms and put on our spandex
and come
running back, and they come back like a little more to your right, a little more now, and stop, don't move, and we would fit back into our Sharpie shape and power on. So that's cute as anything. And Peter MacNeil, we laughed a lot. We laughed a lot and made the most of because we were shooting in an old bus station.
Yeah.
Not a station where passengers come and go and there's like a cafeteria. No,
yeah.
It was a depot. It was like a fix the buses, store the buses. So there was no insulation. And in the summer we boiled. Wow. And in the winter we froze. I mean, there we are in our spandex, like we're either boiling or freezing. And it was all this like foam rock. So there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of beehive smoke that they use to create. I mean, whew. But and we would get giddy, you'd just be there for hours and hours, and we would just get giddy, and I don't know. So there was a lot of fun to it, and some, heavy stories, and I had a bunch of ships, and I have my the way they raised money, they did, they made trailers to raise money for it. And the woman that played my part, very blonde, very buxom and whatever. And they made all the plates for, all the armor for those people. So when I powered on, I went from like an A cup to an E cup. I just shot out these big gold boobs, and my what do you call it, figure,
your avatar,
my little doll. No,
the
my little doll,
figure.
my action figure.
Yeah.
My action figure.
That's I don't know who that is.
Blonde. I have a couple of them still, and I'm like, see me? I haven't aged well, have I? I mean, like I went through this.
Kerr Galaxy Studios wanted to know: have you stayed in touch with anyone from that show over the years?
Within the last year,
Yeah.
Peter MacNeil and I have become friends on Facebook. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then I saw Tim when we did our 25-year interview thing.
It's just,
but I know,
the things that it's like, what, if it had the cult following that it has now, you would still have finished in season. Who knows what it would have done? It's like looking at that with a lot of the cross merchandising that goes on today is very much similar at looking at what was called Digital Entertainment Network, with what Netflix did a few years later. It was too early. What the infrastructure really hadn't evolved, but Netflix would not exist without Den. And I can't imagine what we have now that wouldn't have existed without a show like Captain Power paving the way, and for Mattel to go ahead and say, we'll take a chance on this. Let's see what happens. It will be interesting one way or another.
So. I think the technology, like I said, I think it could have served a lot more purposes and done different things, and the evolution would have been interesting to see. And the storylines were, there were a lot of really deep and juicy storylines. Yeah,
absolutely. And I have to finish on a funny one here. King's Rook, and back again to the real ITC, said, Jessica, any explanation for the propensity for your characters to die in explosions? 5 characters and counting, apparently.
How? Oh, did they counted? I love
Someone
that.
counted.
I know it's the only thing I can think of, it seemed like it was, do you remember the SCTV characters that John Candy and Joe Flaherty in the film farm film review or whatever it was, and the two of them sitting there, and the two of them sit there, may God take a liking to you and blow you up real good.
So there's nothing left.
So I guess God's taking a liking to me because he blew me up real good 5 times. I know it's weird. It's weird. I mean, I remember doing it when it happened on NCIS. We're blowing you up for sweeps week. When they get all their ratings, I'm like, I'm glad I'm serving a purpose. Unceremonious.
One more before I let you go. Amazon has begun the process of buying MGM. It's just a matter of time, be it 2 years from now or 5 years from now, before Stargate comes back in one shape or form, either in the Brad Wright universe that was created for the TV series after the movie, or something new. Okay. Would you be opposed to coming back as someone, as a new someone for SG-4?
No, of course. I'd love to. That'd be great. Yeah. All right. As someone else. Yeah.
I would love to see it. If something does come down, if it does end up getting shot somewhere that's accessible to you, please audition for it, please.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I mean, and yeah, of course, those kinds of shows, and I've done a bunch of. It's so good for your imagination, and it's so good for. Yeah, I would love to. That'd be great.
The velocity.
I hope that for you guys.
Yes, we've been very patient, Jessica. But the velocity of the storytelling has slowed to the point where it's fewer number of episodes. The Expanse was picked up by Amazon from Sci-Fi, so it's one of the shows that everyone is looking at that and saying, if they can adapt a previously existing show.
I have a friend on that show.
Oh yeah, and are they happy?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Keon Alexander. I think he's having a great time.
There we go. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, good. I have Sci-Fi, fans that are like, this is the one. It's great.
I've heard.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Jessica, thank you so much for
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
My thanks to Jessica Steen for making this episode of Dial the Gate possible. It was such a treat to finally sit down and talk with her. And she's someone, that I've admired for years, long before she was on Stargate. I found out she was going to be on Lost. It was like, yes, they got her. That's great. And then, things changed out with Tori, and it's like, okay, this other girl's got her stuff. This is a terrific performance. And so I've always been like, it's like, well, Jessica's Tori. I've always been so torn in between because I've loved them both, and I've gotten to know Tori over the years. So it's like, it's been so hard for me. And the other thing is, and I'm going to let you in on, stuff here. Darren over at Gate World and I, because I was there once it was like 3 years old. I've been doing this since I was 18, and I'm 38 now. And we have been so privileged to have access to Brad and Rob and Joe and Paul and the people who have made these stories possible. And we have, because we're fans and we want to know the stories. And so we have those stories from their perspective that we will take to our graves. They're not our stories to tell. And it's so, interesting to bring someone on and have them tell their story. And it's like, because I've been doing a lot of oral history with Dial of the Gate and Dialing Home over when Stargate Command was a thing. And oral history is very nebulous. People remember one thing. It was a blue canoe. No, it was actually a gray canoe. Little things like that. Persistence, memory is weird. And so it's always so pleasant when someone comes on and verifies everything. So to get an opportunity to have someone come on and actually explain their side of it, and for me as a reporter, to go back through my brain, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I heard, but the right people have to tell that story, or those stories don't get told at all. It's just not our place. So it was terrific to have her on. And it's also one of those other things that's flashing in the back of my mind as a neon sign would be, as the older that I get, is that communication is so important, and there isn't always time or an opportunity for it. And you get to, deal with the consequences of that, over years of dwelling on it. Or in Jessica's case, it was the time that it was. Once the opportunity was over, I moved on. I found out a little bit later what was going on, and that was it. And it's such a privilege to sit down with the likes of her and the likes of, the Joseph Malazzi, who we're doing an ongoing series with now, and getting those details for committed in a place for all time where fans will be able to access it into the future. And it's just really cool. So that's the nice thing about the reason that I created this show. So thankful to Jessica and everyone else who have come on and given their stories. Absolutely. Dial the Gate is brought to you every week for free, and we do appreciate you watching. And if you want to support the show by buying yourself some of our themed swag. We're now offering t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, and hoodies for all ages in a variety of sizes and colors at Redbubble. Checkout is fast and easy, and you can even use our Amazon or PayPal account. Just visit dialthegate.redbubble.com, and thank you so much for your support. So next week's lineup is going to be the lineup that is going to close us out of the season with episodes 98 and 99. At 12 noon on June 27th, 12 noon Pacific time, Joseph Malazzi is going to be joining us for part 9. Coincidentally enough, Atlantis season 1. So we're going to go into that first season with Tori and with Joe and all the others. Joe had these are both that are upcoming pre-recorded episodes, and Joe had some really interesting insights for season 1 of Atlantis. And he's at 12 noon Pacific time on June 27th, followed by my first interview ever with Bill Dow. A huge oversight on my part, let me tell you, because this guy he's one of 8 people who have been in all 3 live-action TV series. So that's June the 27th at 2 p.m. Bill Dow will be episode 99. And then we're off. And so this behind me goes away, and I am going to the Midwest. We will have episode 100 over the week of San Diego Comic-Con with the Stargate Atlantis cast reunion. The 45-minute version will be premiering there first, and then a few hours later or a day later, I'm not exactly sure which yet because the date and time are still being finalized, but they have a several-hour moratorium on the content. We will then air a 90-minute version, the complete cut, over here on Dial the Gate at youtube.com/dialthegate. And that's what we've got. And be expecting content to be produced throughout the summer as well. That's pre-recorded. No real live shows. This one does when they move, everything's going to be chaos. And especially right now with next to no houses on the market, that's that. So that's what I've got for you. I really appreciate you tuning in. My tremendous thanks to my amazing team. Linda Fury, my producer. Summer, Tracy, Keith, Jeremy, Reese, Anthony, my moderating team, and my production assistant, Jen. You guys make the show happen. And to everyone who tunes in every week, my viewers who are consistent with us, thank you so much for watching. If you've just found the show, I hope you liked what you saw. Click that like button for us and help to get us into the viewing queues of more Stargate fans. And we'll just keep on puttering along with this show. I think that's what think that's all that we have for you here. And I hope that the interview answered some questions that you had, and that you had a good time as well. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the other side.